Well, this is episode 2 of the Co-Directors podcast, brought to you by Sadness and Depression.
My favourite sponsor.
Jesus. Oh, right, this is going to be a heavy one. Today we are discussing the first film of Lynne Ramasy, which is a film called Ratcatcher. And it's an upbeat, jolly look at life in 70s Glasgow, and we haven't stopped crying.
Yep, no, it was... I mean, honestly, not what I expected.
No, I didn't... Well, this is the thing. I
had no expectations.
Were you aware of who Lynne Ramasy was at any point, or any of her other works, before you started watching this film?
No.
Did you know she was Scottish?
No, but
Like
I
yourself.
guessed from the fact that it was set in Scotland, pretty much.
Yes. I was only really aware of her having done We Need to Talk About Kevin, which I have seen and is incredible. One of the other podcasts I listen to, Mark Kermode, he talks about how amazing her films are, and actually Stu Whiffen on Hardcore Listing, who we had a chat with a little while ago, he enjoys her work, I believe. He's spoken about her films a couple of times on their podcast. But actually, another thing, someone at work did recommend to me You Were Never Really Here, which is her latest one with Joaquin Phoenix. So I might give that a watch. But other than that, I didn't know much about her, other than We Need to Talk About Kevin, which is dark as shit.
Yeah, I'm sensing that might be a theme.
Well, I mean, just looking at her Wikipedia page real quickly, it says her films are marked by a fascination with children and young people and the recurring themes of grief, guilt, death, and its aftermath. And I guess if the rest of her films are like this one, I don't know if I can take it. I felt so sad after I watched this.
I think there's a certain type of mood you have to be in for films like these.
You have to sort of steel yourself a little bit, don't you?
You kind of have to be ready for it. Because I think because we were sort of just like, right, we're watching this because we need to talk about it later on. Right, I just need to watch it. There wasn't any sort of like, oh, am I in the right mood for this? Because if you were already like feeling a bit shit, your mood's just going to tank.
Yeah, if you're feeling any sort of vulnerability, or if you had just the wrong sort of day, and then you go and watch this, it really sort of like, oh, what's the point? Having said all that, there are there are some positives to this film, so we'll get into that. So the Ratcatcher begins in 1973's Glasgow. The refuse collectors, I guess you call them, have gone on strike. So in grey brick and mortar buildings with bin bags everywhere, and there's quite an ominous canal out the back of one of the tenement buildings. That's where we start, and we see Ryan, who we're introduced to and led to believe is going to be the main character we follow in this story.
He would have been if the film had been 5 minutes long.
Yes. But he drowns in the canal, which is lovely.
I think the thing about that is that I found weird is that normally that becomes a much, like, it is quite a big deal in the film, but it's only a big deal for
Jim.
Yeah, it's only a big deal for one character. Whereas normally that would be the start of like some whole long film about finding out who did it.
Yeah.
Instead they just sort of go, well, that kid's dead. That's shit for everyone.
Well, I think it explores James's emotions and guilt and stuff, like Wikipedia said, because right up until the end of the film, he thinks he was not being watched, because we should say he pushed Ryan.
Yeah, I mean they
were mucking about.
They were dicking around by the edge of the canal. What did you think was going to happen? But maybe just sort of mention to someone and go, I think he might be drowning.
But I think I guess his inaction is what he feels guilty about, rather than his action, which is, in fairness, they were playing. If he had got someone, as we see later in the film, there is another lad, Kenny, who goes into the canal, and the alarm is raised, and it's actually Jim's dad who pulls him out the water. But because he doesn't act, that's what leads to Ryan's death, which actually has a huge impact on him. It's not really overtly discussed, but it's like the canal. It sort of ebbs and flows, and it's there. I felt a real presence from that canal. It's a real ominous thing just in the background, just out of sight of the tenement when they look out the window.
It's almost like it's a character in itself.
Yeah, completely. And that's sort of reinforced by whenever, right at the start, there's that sort of low hum. Did you hear that? The real bassy hum. There's a real
I think I missed
dreadful
that.
sound. Oh, well, I was watching it with earphones in, so I could, so I can hear the sound properly and everything. But it's almost like in Jaws.
I've seen that film like once, and it was a long time ago.
Well, there's parts of Jaws where the camera is underwater and the theme music hasn't kicked in, but there's a sort of little hum noise, and when the canal is shown, you get that sort of coming up, and it's a little what's the word? What's the word for it?
Ominous.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
No, it's gone. I'm not going to be able to think of it.
Omnipresent.
It's almost like an incidental tone of saying, right, here's this character.
Oh, like a tropey sort of thing. Like
ish. There's a specific word that I'm thinking of that I can't remember, but it'll come to me.
I've always just seen them as like horror film tropes where you get like the music switch when the bad guy's coming.
Yeah.
Like Jaws is a good example of that, but yeah.
Well, because of the water.
no, because of the theme music that you get. Because I think it's something you see a lot in a lot of films. Like you get like hero themes and stuff.
Yeah.
For different heroes, which makes films like The Avengers just mental. Because it's like
motif. Sorry, I've just remembered. Yeah, it's an incidental motif. That's the word I was thinking of. Sorry, continue.
It's good. That's your degree's paying for itself now. Finally.
But then, so following this incident, not a lot happens. Like it's very much a portrait of life in this tenement building, this block, and James, whatever. He's very rarely an active participant in what's happening. He's observing a lot of the behaviour that's going on. So he observes the gang of lads that are bullying
Margaret
Ann. Yeah, Margaret Ann. He observes his father being abusive. He doesn't really get involved in much.
It's weird
until he makes the choice to get on the bus and leave. It's
weird for a main character to have so few lines of dialogue comparatively to a lot of the other characters.
Yeah, that's another character. I think that adds itself to me thinking of him as like an observer, because he doesn't speak up that often.
Yeah, and he doesn't, even when he does speak up, he doesn't really have much to say. I think the most you see him speak in one scene is when they're having the party where his dad's obviously somewhere and having, like, there's a cat that's murdered or something. And, like, he's just sort of, that's the most interaction I saw with him and any other characters apart from Margaret.
Yeah. Because
he's very much like, almost like a sidekick to the story.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, he's our window into seeing what's happening in this in the little town.
So I don't know if you can call Glasgow a little town.
All right, well, the little section of Glasgow that we see, the bit that's being developed.
Yeah, it's weird because on like when my mum moved back up to Edinburgh, she lived in a building that was refurbished from projects like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's weird because it had like the red and white wallpaper like they had in the hallway as you walked up the stairs. Yeah, no, it had all of that, and I was like, so when I saw that, I was like, that's a thing.
Oh, so you saw like recognisable parts then?
Yeah, I mean, she had a toilet inside, so it was good. But it'd been like, it was furbished from that sort of same era sort of buildings. So I was like, oh, So it's not... Because this sort of implies that like you sort of demolish them and then just go, yep, cool, we'll just cover over that bit of history. But those buildings still exist in some places. I think Glasgow is one of the places that just sort of goes, yeah, fuck it. It just knocks it all down.
Can I throw a film student-y word at you for that, then? It adds verisimilitude. As in sort of truthfulness to real life outside of the film. That degree really is paying for itself now.
I mean, I'd simplify that word and call it reality. Or realism.
Just a couple of...
Because like we had word counts, not letter counts, right?
Wait, what?
Oh shit, I only wrote 15,000 letters for my dissertation.
Just a couple of really striking images that I remember from I wrote down a couple of notes just to when it's happened. The funeral car that comes to pick up Ryan's body, as it pulls up on the pavement, the door opens and gets stuck on a bin bag. And that was just really stuck in my head as a little visual cue of like, okay, so there's a dead body, there's also a bin bag. It's almost like they could have been there to pick up that bin bag. The fact that Ryan's death is then no longer spoken about except when his mum leaves. It's like he was just an incidental part of piece of rubbish. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Ineffectual to the rest of the town.
But I mean, at that point, they're essentially taking him away from the story.
Yeah.
Because he's no longer important to it.
The one little piece of optimism that we got is Snowball's story, and even that it's false optimism. So Kenny is a lad who lives down the road from Jim. Did you find that scene where there are just loads of rats living on the moon just weirdly out of place? No, not at all, and I'll tell you for why. Kenny gets himself a white rat for his birthday, and attached to his cage is a red helium balloon. And then this group of bullies take Snowball, the rat, or he's a mouse, isn't he? And they're throwing him between them, sort of teasing Kenny. And Kenny eventually gets him back. Then they manage to convince him that Snowball can fly. So Kenny goes back in, goes upstairs, ties Snowball to the balloon. He goes, "Here, everybody, watch this." And just lets the balloon go, and off Snowball goes. He's like, "Oh my god!"
Oh wait, no, I know why it's not out of place. Because this is a story told through the eyes of a child.
Yeah, completely. That's completely it. Is that Snowball's of course Snowball goes up, and eventually the balloon pops, and if he's not frozen to death, he falls to his death, right? But like you say, because it's in the eyes of a child, he actually does get to the moon. And it was only as this scene was happening, I was getting a little bit of deja vu. I was like, I've definitely seen this before. I think I studied it in college because I remember doing a little.
Oh, what? Just that scene or this film?
Just that little sequence of because it was a module about like magical realism or something. So it's when a sudden element of fantasy is added to a very real world. Oh, so did you get the perspective of the stuff building up to it, or just here are some rats living on the moon? No, I think it was. I think it's from the scene where he brings the mouse out. He's like, "Hey, here we go. Look at this. Isn't this funny?" And then it builds up. So then you see Snowball floating from Earth to the moon, and then starting a little mouse colony. So that's obviously it's in there, but I think it also foreshadows the ending, which we will get to. Another scene or image that really stuck in my head was that there's a really brilliant, another film shooting word, graphic match, or is it implied anyway? Jim's dad is drunk, and this little girl says, "Oh, mister, can you look after my cat while I go to the ice cream van?" He's like, "Yeah, definitely." So she keeps holding this cat, and he gets started on by a gang, and as one of them
isn't it the same gang?
Well,
it's never specified, but I just assumed that there's one gang roaming around.
Oh, perhaps then. I'm not sure, but I thought it was an older gang. But as one of them pulls out a comb, doesn't he? But I guess it's like either sharpened or it's a comb one end and a knife blade on the other.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
It cuts from the comb being pulled out the back pocket implying violence is about to take place, to strawberry sauce getting dropped onto the girl's ice cream.
Yeah.
Like dribbling down. I thought that was absolutely stunning. That's so great. You don't need to know anything else. You just know something's like he's been stabbed. And I actually thought that was him dead, but he survives.
I thought that, and then as soon as he walked in, I was like, oh, cool, they've just killed the cat.
Yeah.
As long as something died.
Following on from that, there's a scene where Jim's dad, who he's quite an abusive husband, or at least he's got a bad streak in him. He doesn't seem entirely awful, but he does get back and he slaps his wife, and that prompts Jim to run out of the house. But then they have a really lovely scene where it's just a static shot, and they're just holding each other and just dancing in the dark. They're just spinning on the spot. Wow, what music's playing? It's a track that I recognise. I can't remember what it is. Is it Frank Sinatra or something?
It might be. I can't remember. No, I recognised this when I heard it, but it's one of those things. I don't know. Yeah, no. It's old people music. That.
So anyway, that was just. Oh, another thing is it has the same ending as Shaun of the Dead. The army come in and save everyone. Just remove all the bin bags.
I kind of thought that the end was going to be when he got back to like.
Well, we haven't explained that he goes off to find that house yet.
Oh yeah, he goes off to find the house. When he's looking out the window of like that house, yes. I really thought he was going to like climb out and it was going to be like a big cardboard thing that was going to fall over and it was just going to be Glasgow in the background.
That's funny you mentioned actually that I watched a film recently. I won't name the film because it's a really good twist in the plot, but something similar to that actually happens. It's all a complete construction and a character puts their hand through the set. It's amazing, but yeah, I won't tell you.
Oh, is that the Truman Show?
No.
Oh no, because he puts a boat through the set.
I've not actually seen the Truman Show.
Okay.
So James, I mentioned before, he escapes on a bus. So he gets on a bus and he's following his sister. Is it his sister? I think so. And or it's someone who lives in the tenement building anyway. And he gets to the end of the line because he doesn't really understand how public transport works, and he ends up on this housing development. So he's exploring the housing development and he's looking around and you just see the wonder in his eyes. Like he's never seen this much space for a domicile, for where people live. A massive empty white room that's just full of light, and it's a fairly modest building, but he's not seen anything like it. So, and it overlooks this cornfield, and he jumps through the unfinished window, having explored the house and enjoyed lying in the bath and stuff. And he just runs and rolls through this field, and it's like it's the best day of his life. I thought that was.
Yeah, and then he brings Nits back.
Yeah, that is a really, really lovely sequence where he's just jumping through the field. Oh, you've really captured what it is to just be lost in your own world when you're a child. But again, that's the end of the optimism.
Well, no, I don't think I've actually ever seen a film do Nits before.
No, it's quite an accurate representation. It took me straight back to when you sat in the bath and your mum's combing through your hair, like, oh, get off, it's stinging my eyes.
Yeah, you've got the comb and then the fucking that fucking horrible shampoo.
Yeah. God, that smell.
If anything, all that did was make me go, I'm glad I'm not a fucking kid anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that's one bit I don't miss.
And then it was really nice that he then does that for Margaret when, because I don't know, it seems like she's having a shit day and he's just like, all right, I'll help, I'll get rid of your nits for you.
Yeah.
But then that scene was all kinds of weird.
Well, I don't know if
it was a nice scene, but it was weird to watch, if that makes sense.
It was, yeah. It had, I think it was innocent. It's all quite innocent, because they take the clothes off, get in the bath, and, just have a bit of a muck. But it's, platonic. I don't think it's not overtly the reason they're doing it is for... Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Sexual thing. It's just that they happen to be doing this. But yeah, it's intimate, but not in the sense of romantically or sexually intimate. It is the two of them baring their souls to each other and trusting each other, which I think then makes it more difficult when the revelation about her in the shed comes.
Yeah.
So from a couple of bits of loveliness to probably the most depressing ending of a film I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, I found the end confusing because, like, so obviously James just sort of goes after the military turn up and they're like, yeah, fuck all this rubbish, we'll take that. Then you get this shot of James just like, well, after Kenny's just like, I saw you push him, and it's just like, well, you're a cunt. I mean, to be fair, like, it's not. I mean, but stitches get snitches. Snitches get stitches, not stitches get snitches. Fuck. Oh, it's fine. You'll fix that in post.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you'll take out the one where I said it right.
Edit in this. What an idiot! Don't you know nothing?
But no, so obviously then that sort of breaks any sort of coming to terms with and like sort of going, I think I can move on with my life now.
Yeah,
that James has had.
Overwhelms him, I think.
And then he's just like, do you know what would be good? Is if I drowned too. Like, it's that sort of really simplistic eye for an eye that a kid sees. Where you go, well, if I drown someone, I should drown.
It brings the story to a full circle. Like, I actually went away and I looked at I did a bit of research, like looking for some sort of critical analysis of this film, and there's an article on BFI from the Sight and Sound magazine, and it points out that the film begins with an end and ends with an end. It's got two beginnings, it's got two endings.
I suppose you see both of the people who are touted to be main characters die.
Yeah, but Jesus Christ, it's horrendous. The fact that this, how old do you reckon he is? Sort of like 8, 9-year-old kid?
I'd say he's probably like 10 or 11.
Yeah, maybe slightly older. But he's so constricted, and his community, his life, it's so claustrophobic.
You were low-key about to shit on Glasgow, weren't you?
No.
It's like, because he lives in Glasgow, this is his only way to be happy.
If I am shitting on Scotland or Glasgow, it is because this is the Scotland, the Glasgow that has been represented to me.
But you've seen Trainspotting.
I'm sure it's lovely. Trainspotting, Jesus Christ, that makes it. Trainspotting looks like the magic roundabout.
There's the Angel Share as well.
Actually, genuinely, I fucking love the Angel Share, and that is one very positive view of Scotland I've seen on film.
There's a film that I need to show you at some point called Whiskey Galore. It's like an old Scottish film from like the 30s or something.
I think it's in my book, you know, my little Bible of 1001 films.
It's fucking great. It's just
next time you're down, we'll watch it.
Like, the premise is essentially just like there's a whiskey ship that's crashed, and it's just this island full of people going, yeah, but we need the whiskey.
I like the sound of this.
But there are nice Scottish films, just the good ones are the ones where it's just like, Scotland must be shit.
So at the end of it, so we see James, he slides into the river, we see him sort of with his arms outstretched, just completely limp, he's floating, sort of hanging in the water, you know. It then cuts to the field, and his entire family are walking through the field to the very house he explored. And that's where we leave him. But
isn't he he's in the background of that shot carrying a chair?
He's in the background, and then it cuts.
And then he smiles, and I'm like, oh, that's not the same kid.
Yeah, it is.
No, it is the same kid, but like.
Oh, because he smiled.
It's like it's like maybe the first or second time in the film that he's smiled. I recognise this guy.
So, do you think he dies, or do you think that they pull him out and that is them go, right, we need to get out of here? I think it's probably slightly naive to think that.
I think it's down to everyone who watches it to decide whether or not he survived. I think it's implied probably that he, depending on how you want the film to end.
Yeah. I mean, I want the film to. I want them because I like them all. They've all got their flaws, but I do like the family. But you know, I want them to be alright, but I just don't think it is. The sort of the contrivance that is, and they are moving into the house that he loved and the place where he found happiness and an escape.
It seems like too neat a finish for a film that's just so real.
Bleak, yeah. Looking back on it, having discussed it now, it's a tough watch, but it's
worth a watch. Like,
yeah,
I don't regret watching it.
Yeah,
I know that probably if in the future I need a good cry or to just really fuck with someone and be like, mate, I've got this amazing film to show you. It is going to make you, like, the first hour is real hardcore, but then fucking gold at the other end. It's fucking funny as fuck. And then for them to just finish it and just be like, did that kid just commit suicide? And me to be like, oh yeah, no, I lied. Like, this film is depressing as fuck.
So did you cry at the end? Or did you cry at any point?
Not really, but I was a bit sort of like...
Well, you mentioned, before we started recording, you mentioned you had to get up and have a little bit.
Yeah, no, I went and had a break, because...
What point was that?
It was actually just after he came back from the house. Like, the nice house. I was like, this is a good place to pause it.
Yeah, just leave him. Okay, let's leave him here for a second.
Yeah, I'll leave him paused on the screen for 20 minutes and then see what comes back. Because also you messaged me about the same time, saying like, well, that was depressing. And I was just like,
I'm going to read out what my message to you was. Well, my first one said, well, fuck me, Ratcatcher's cheerful. And then after that, all in capitals, oh wait, I fucking lied. Now everything and everyone can fuck off. Yeah, but no, it's clearly a powerful piece of film. Like, it's had us talking for a long while about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's definite merit to it, but Jesus, it is a tough space to inhabit, that representation of Glasgow, and it just, bloody hell, I'm glad I grew up down here.
Yeah,
I did all right, you know. Fuck it.
Well, also, we didn't grow up in the 70s.
That is true. That does also help, you know. So yeah, no, I'm really like, as debuts go, fucking strong.
Yeah, the thing it's weird because it kind of reminds me a little bit of it reminds me quite a lot of This Is England, which I feel like is going to come up a lot until you watch it.
Yeah, well,
because This Is England is that same sort of, it's kind of, this is a lot bleaker than This Is England, but
good.
Because This Is England has a lot more like little sort of, it has some funny moments and some lightheartedness. Yeah. This is just all kind of like,
yeah. I mean,
but you come away with the same sort of ending where you're just sort of like, well, fuck. I'm glad I didn't grow up in those times.
Well, Brett Goldstein, who is a stand-up comedian and does the podcast Films to be Buried With, which is a mighty fine podcast, he said in one of the episodes, he came to the realisation that if you don't have hope or if you don't have jokes at all in your art, then I think you've failed.
I think he's wrong.
That's interesting. Well, I don't know.
I think you don't always need hope. I think
maybe just a touch of lightness would have been nice, which I think this does have. It just makes it all the more tougher. All the more tougher? Oh, speak England. All the tougher for it.
Yeah. The thing is, I think, yeah, you need a little bit, but you don't need... It's not a balance that you need. You need, like, a couple of moments to be like, look, it could all be fine, but no, it's all fucked.
Yeah. I guess that's the hope. That is hope, though, I suppose. But yeah, so, I mean, would you be interested to watch any of her other work, having seen this, based on this?
Yeah, I probably would. Maybe I'd not do, I would say do more research first.
Yeah.
But that's not what I mean. I mean sort of know going in what kind of a film it is.
Yeah, completely. And I think, like we said, you have to be in the right sort of frame of mind. It'd be very tricky to be like, oh, it's a Saturday night, stick a film on. Yeah, let's put on a Lynne Ramasy.
Let me get my depressing folder.
I can completely recommend We Need to Talk About Kevin. That is an amazing film, and it's got Ezra Miller in it. You know, Flash and Credence.
Oh, well, he's not the good Flash, so.
But that goes to some dark places. But it's quite arty as well. The opening's very strange, but in a good way. And also, like I said, a colleague at work says that You'll Never Really Hear is definitely worth a watch. So I'd be interested to watch that. I thought it was, on reflection, a tough watch, but extremely effective and affecting. Affecting, not affecting, being the difference.
Yeah, no, it was a really... like, I don't want to say I enjoyed it, but I did. It's not like... It wasn't like a... This made me feel real good. It was like, this made me feel real something.
You appreciated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the technical and emotional level, I imagine.
More on an emotional level, I don't really understand all this technical crap that you talk about.
But it's like there are certain films where you're pleased you've seen them, but again, you're pleased insofar as you've seen them once.
You're pleased that you've already finished it and don't have to see it again.
Yeah. Well, hopefully our next film that we talk about is going to be a bit lighter in tone.
I mean, if you could please.
I think...
I can't do this again.
Looking at this list, like I said to you before, there's only one other film that I know to be a tricky watch, but the rest of them, I think, should be fine. So our next episode...
Oh, mate, we're finishing you with Bad Boys. I'm good. As long as I can get there.
The next film we're going to be watching, and the directors this time we're going to be discussing, the film is Blood Simple from 1984, and it's the Coen brothers, who make some of the best films in existence, in my humblest of opinions.
I'm just double checking that it's not horrifically depressing.
I think it's a western, as far as I might be completely wrong with that.
Neo-noir? That sounds like an interesting genre.
Oh, is it?
Neo-noir crime film.
Oh, I've got completely the wrong film in my head then. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to watching that.
That sounds great. I've never watched a neo-noir film before.
Really? Equilibrium?
Oh, I've never known what neo-noir is before.
Right.
But yeah, if Equilibrium's neo-noir, then yeah. If it's like that, yeah, I'm fucking all game, mate.
I doubt it's like Equilibrium.
You're right,
anyway.
It's not going to have fucking Ned Stark and Batman.
And Alfred from Gotham.
Yeah, but, you know.
Sean Pertwee, Dog Soldiers, Sergeant H.G. Wells.
Yeah, no, I know who he is. I'm just saying, I'm not as much scared as Alfred as Ned Stark and Batman turning up to kill me for having a feeling.
Anyway.
I need to watch that film again.
I've not seen it. Thank you for listening to the second episode of Co-Directors. If you like any of this, you will find our other show, the Co-Pilots podcast, in much the same way as you found this one, I imagine, if you haven't come from there already.
Yeah, it's going to be weird trying to negotiate and get people to go between the two podcasts.
Nah, it'd be fine.
Please like us.
Yeah. Bye!